Hello, my art-loving friends! In today's video, we'll be taking a look at the Aquatone greens. These are unique watercolors from India, and we'll start out by swatching them on cotton paper, and I will show you how they re-wet, as well as how they go down on the paper, and then I will follow that up with a little painting demonstration at the end. I start out each swatch card by putting water from about halfway down the black line, which is just a Sharpie, and bring that water on down to the bottom so the top part of that is dry. And then I love to show you how they re-wet. This one here is the Phthalo green. It's a PG7, light fast 5 out of 5. You could see it re-wet really easily. It's transparent, staining, and non-granulating. And it feels and looks pretty typical to other phthalo greens that I have used. I am using the Meaden 100% cotton paper, not my favorite, but it's great for this kind of a project, and I'm using the Lindsay Ryrick brush. It's a round size 12 from Craftimo. This one here is the May green. It's a PY3 and a PG7, light fast 4 out of 5, semi-transparent, semi-staining, and non-granulating. This is a beautiful bright green. It'll be great for those super bright spring or summer days when the leaves are their brightest. I get a lot of this green actually in the area I live in here in Colorado. So even though when you first swatch it, it's like, oh, that's way too bright, I'll never use it. It's a really useful color. This one here is the Permanent Green Light. It's a PY3 and a PG7, light fast 4 out of 5, semi-transparent, semi-staining, and non-granulating. This one has a little bit of an unrealistic green to it, yet I am sure if you added it as just a highlight in some of your greenery, it would probably work out pretty well. I don't know. I don't use this color very often because it just seems not as natural as I would like. Aquatone has a beautiful sap green, and that's this color here. It's a PY83 mixed with a PG7. Light fast only 4 out of 5, unfortunately, although that's still a pretty decent rating. Semi-transparent, semi-staining, and non-granulating. When it dries down, it does darken a bit, and it turns into just a beautiful green color, especially when you get a second layer on it. This one did benefit from having that water sit on it from the first brush strokes over it. You can see it's much stronger now. So some of these Aquatone watercolors do need a little bit of a waking up. This one here is Foliage Green. Absolutely gorgeous, re-wets beautifully. It is highly granulating. This is a PB29 mixed with a PY1 and a PR101, light fast 5 out of 5. Semi-opaque, semi-staining, and as I mentioned, highly granulating. And the blue really separates out of this one when it dries. It's just gorgeous. It's very dark for foliage, so this is more your darker forest green if you're going to use it in actual foliage. It is one of Aquatone's standout colors in my opinion, and if you consider buying any of these watercolors, this is one I would put on that list. Aquatone has a really nice chromium oxide green, which is the one you're seeing here now. This is a typical PG17, light fast 5 out of 5, opaque, semi-staining, and granulating, although it is not nearly as granulating as the foliage green right before it. This is quite nice, and for an opaque pigment, this one is not as opaque as some I have seen. So wait for it when it dries because it's kind of beautiful. You can't really judge these swatches until they're dry, so keep that in mind. Wait until the end till you can see them all in their dry form. Next up, we have a problem child, unfortunately. This is one I poured from the tube, and it does not re-wet well. This is Shadow Green, and it's so sad. However, once water sits on this one for a while, it does start to wake up again, so there's hope. This is just one you need to put a bunch of water in and let it sit for a couple of minutes. Not seconds, unfortunately, but minutes. And it's still not at its full strength compared to directly from the tube, but at least you can use it. PB27 PY42. Did I mention this is shadow green? Light fast 5 out of 5, semi-opaque, semi-staining, and non-granulating. So sad that it is very light like this, but it does remind me of green earth. So if you just pretend that this is green earth, then you'll be a happy camper because it's as low tinting in this dried out form as a green earth usually is. Next up, we have this really interesting one. This is Cobalt Green Hue, PG7 and a PW6. Isn't that interesting? Light fast 5 out of 5, opaque, semi-staining, and non-granulating. And I thought, where and when on earth would I ever use this color? But ironically, I found a use for it in the painting at the end of this video, which kind of made me really happy. You can see it's very opaque. However, if you didn't mind painting with opaque paint, it would be really pretty for Caribbean waters or any of those really bright blue waters you get sometimes even up in mountain lakes and ponds. I really love this one here. This is the olive green. It's a PG17, a PY1, and a PR101 with a little bit of PBK7 in it. It is light fast, 5 out of 5. Semi-transparent, semi-staining, and non-granulating. So in its watered out form, you can see that it can be very yellow tinted. And as you add some layers on it or just get the paint more activated, it is a deep, beautiful olive green. I really love this color. I also really like this next color, even though it's another opaque one, but I tend to like some opaque watercolors. This is the green gray, and you would have seen this one in the grays set video that I already did with this brand. However, I was just bunching all the greens back together and ended up with this one in here again. A couple of these are probably repeats from previous videos, but anyway, this is green gray PG17 with PBK7 and PW6. It's light fast 5 out of 5, opaque, semi-staining, and non-granulating. It's a beautiful gray color with a green tint, more green than gray, and I just love it. And I'll pick it up out of the glare here for you to see, but do wait until it dries as usual to judge it. And now here they all are, dried, labeled, tape removed, beautiful, ready for my card file database. I would love to know, once you're seeing these dry now, which one or which ones are the most interesting to you and why. So definitely let me know in the comments below. I would also really appreciate a like on this video if you're finding this entertaining or helpful at all. It makes me feel good. It probably helps my channel and the video get shown to more people as well, so I appreciate that. Also, if you are a watercolor lover and you are not yet subscribed, please look at the other videos on my channel. If what you see interests you, consider subscribing. It's absolutely free. Just make sure you turn on the notification bell to all. That's what I prefer anyway when I subscribe to a channel, so that you're notified when new videos come out, because we have a lot of watercolor videos coming up and I appreciate you being here. For the painting part of this, I am using my Hanamule cotton sketchbook. It's 100% cotton paper. However, I think the sizing is already starting to go bad on some of these back pages, or maybe just this page, because I have a lot of trouble with the painting coming up. I decided to sketch in some avocados because they have a lot of different greens, or you can make them greens when you paint them. However, the actual meat of the avocado is more of a yellowish green, and I do not have that color in this set, but that's okay because I am just using the May green really diluted down, and that's working pretty well. And then I did want to see if I mixed the May green with the olive green, what kind of green that would get me. And it was more of a sap green actually. So I ended up using that around the outside edge just to kind of see if that would be the right color for that. And I do add a little bit of the actual sap green in that edge later. So I'm really sticking to the May green for the meat of the avocado itself. And then I'll just repeat that on the other open avocado. So the May green with some, basically the sap green around the edge. Maybe I add in another color here and there, but I think I've pretty well stuck to the sap green. And then I am mixing some of the olive green in for the little pit hole there. This is the exciting part. This avocado is not cut open, so we're just seeing the skin. And I apologize, I didn't realize the camera was focusing in and out, but I did finally catch that. But anyway, this is the foliage green, the one that granulates so heavily and kind of puts out the blue tint. But I wanted to get that granulation in for the skin of the avocado, and I think it worked really well. I don't use it just by itself, although right now it is just by itself. Right now I'm using it super thin because the paper was already giving me trouble, and I didn't want to get really awkward hard lines, so I basically took water, put it in the entire skin of the avocado just kind of as a placeholder before getting some more of the foliage green and actually putting it in there in the thickness that I wanted. So I have mentioned before that this is not my favorite sketchbook by far, but I have had success painting in it, and I have painted in it just fine, with the exception of today's painting because it just wasn't working well. And it's not the paint, it was definitely the paper. I don't know if you can see on the top edge of the avocado I am painting on now. It's just separating weirdly, and there were parts of this painting that kind of soaked through, which usually only happens when the sizing is going bad. Unfortunately, it's so sad. Luckily, I am getting closer to the end of this sketchbook. I will definitely keep using it. I am going to try a couple other pages and see. And I also noticed on this paper, when you do have a painting on the back side of it, and then you paint on the other side, that the paint does act a little differently. It's never been this bad, but it's problematic. We'll just put it that way. But back to the painting and these interesting greens, I think even with the slight glare from the overhead lights that you can see the beautiful granulation that this one is getting, this avocado skin. And for the pit in that left side avocado, I decided to use mostly, almost exclusively, the olive green. And I am just putting it in a pretty strong form and then kind of diluting it out. And I think it's somewhere here I noticed that the camera was going all wacky on me. So thank you for sticking with this video through the focus issues. I was not at home in my studio. I had the camera set up in a different location. And apparently I did not make the settings correct when I turned it all back on, unfortunately. But the good news is because of the focus issue, I cannot time-lapse too much. I guess that's good news if you like seeing more real-time painting than time-lapse, because in time-lapse, that focus issue is kind of dizzying. So again, thank you for sticking with this video, even through the camera issues. I really appreciate it. And one thing about these paints that remind me of the Rosa Gallery and the Roman Schmal paints and several other brands too is when water has sat on them for a while, they do really activate, with the exception of the couple that dry too hard. Sadly, shadow green, transparent brown oxide, and the raw sienna, so far 3 of them. So it's really easy to get a deep tone, a deep hue, a deep value, I guess if you want, of each color. So you can go very easily from very light to dark. However, once they start getting goopy, you do need to pull it out to your mixing space and make sure that it's really stirred up in your brush. And look at the avocado on the right. Do you see how the paper has basically just separated the paint based on how much water I had in the brush each time? Now, if you're working on good paper, you won't see that so much. Obviously, if you still put a ton of water in a place and not as much paint as another place, you're going to see similar things, but this was really noticeable. It kind of went to the extreme. So I'm basically repainting the entire top of this avocado here. Oh well. So I suppose it's a good thing that this is a review of the paints and not the paper, although I guess you're getting a review of the paper, aren't you? It's at this point here that I thought I would use that crazy cobalt green hue, that super bright one, because in some of the highlights on these avocados, it actually does reflect a little blue. And this is the bluest green I have in this set. I know on my swatch sheet just above the palette you're seeing right now, the phthalo green looks pretty blue as well, but in person, the cobalt green hue is more blue. They are both leaning blue, yes, but the cobalt green hue is definitely the bluest. And I think it works pretty well. You can see it in the very left tip of the skin of the avocado I'm painting right now. And then of course I added more of that foliage green into the skin part because, you know, consistency. I also added a little bit of the olive green for differentiation in color, which is always fun. And I'm going to speed up the rest of this because I think I solved the camera focus issue by this point, so it shouldn't be too dizzying. I just finish up the skins, let this dry as far as the skins go before putting the shadow underneath. And boy, it was taking a long time to dry on this paper. We've already talked about that. No need to talk about it anymore. But I did put a shadow under there. The shadow's a little bit lighter than it probably should be, although I kind of wanted a more diffused shadow this time. And I realized later I may not have put the dried version of this out for you to see. Hopefully I have that at the end of the video. So I just am refining a couple things, making the shadow the way I feel it should be more. And then I do add a little bit to the pits of the avocado. They just looked too unrealistic. Maybe they're still a little bit unrealistic, but at least changing the values really helps. It helps a little bit. That one doesn't have a pit in it, it's just a pit hole. The one on the right is the one I mean. And it looks like I did not get the dried version here for you. I am sorry about that. I will try and show that to you in an upcoming video. But thank you so much for joining me. These are the Aquatone greens. The standout ones, definitely, I like the sap green, the foliage green, the chromium oxide green, and the green gray are definitely among my favorites. The olive is interesting as well. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.